I've gotten started with reading the Heiress and I am 75 pages in, so I did want to give a little first impression. As I've been reading, I kind of thought it might be kind of early to tell you what I think about it because of where we are in the story, but we're 75 pages in, so I mean, that feels like a good spot. And the book is a little under 300 pages and it reads really fast, so I kind of fear that I might read the whole book and not sit down and talk to you about it again. So I was like, okay, let's just do a little 75 page check-in, my first impressions on the story, and let you know where I'm at. I don't have any clue what this book is about. I know that sounds silly, even 75 pages in, but I did not refresh myself on the synopsis of this one before jumping into it. I've had a confusing relationship with Rachel Hawkins' books, so I kind of just wanted to go into this with a fresh mind without any expectations, because the last book I read from her, I had expectations and I was let down. So everything I've read from Rachel Hawkins includes The Wife Upstairs, which I gave like a 3.5, maybe a 4-star, somewhere around there. Like, I remember enjoying that book. Then I read Reckless Girls and I loved that. I'm pretty sure I gave it a 5-star, but that was a really unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people did not like Reckless Girls. And then I read The Villa last year and I was wildly disappointed with it, and I think I gave it a 1 or a 2-star. I was just pretty harsh on it because I was thinking it was going to be a thriller and it wasn't a thriller. And now I'm wondering, if I just didn't have expectations, I think I would have enjoyed that more. And then I would be able to say that I always like the stuff I read from Rachel Hawkins and it would have always been wins from there. But I think it was hard going from Reckless Girls to The Villa. My expectations were just kind of wonky. So going into the Heiress, I was like, whatever. This could be a literary fiction. This could be the most boring story I ever go into. It could be a twisty thriller. It could be a suspense. It could be a mystery. I have no idea. I'm just going to go into it without holding it to any kind of standard and just see if I'm enjoying the story. And I am. I'm really enjoying it. So I think that was a really good choice on my part. So far, the best way that I would classify this is a mystery right now, at least. And like I said, I haven't refreshed myself on the synopsis, so I don't know what we're really leading to. It doesn't feel like I have all the information, like that one piece of what is the story really going to be about, but I can kind of give you the information that I have 75 pages in. Is you are following this couple. I think their names are Jules and Cam. The guy is Cam. His name is Camden. He goes by Cam. And then Jules, and they've been together for a while. I'm pretty sure they're married, and they've been living in Colorado in this little tiny house, and she works on this like what do you call those places where it's like a fake historical reenactment kind of facility. And the story starts with her coming home one day from work and he's sitting at the table and he looks really upset and he says his family's gotten in touch with him and they want him to come home, and that's like this big dun 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 moment. And it turns out he comes from this really rich family that he was adopted into, and his mother is this really, I guess, famous kind of woman in the area named Ruby McTavish. And it's set in North Carolina near Asheville, which is like one of my favorite places in the world. So I always love when a book is set in North Carolina. North Carolina is where I am from, not where I'm living right now, but always love to find a North Carolina book. And Ruby, when she was a baby, I think she was 3 years old, she was kidnapped and it was this whole big news story. But then she got returned a year later, and then she ended up going through a lot of marriages in her life, and all of her husbands ended up dead, so she kind of had a reputation for that. Then she's been living at this estate. She has now died, and now Cam is going back to this family, bringing Jules there for the first time. He has really tried to separate himself from this life, and now he's like going to let Jules in and show her what his life is like. So that's what I mean, where like something's missing, you know, like something's clearly gonna happen when they do finally get to the house, and maybe someone goes missing or someone finds out they're, I don't know, not really related. I don't know, something's gonna happen. I think it's gonna have to do with inheritance, I would assume, based on the setup. It's called the Heiress, rich family. He's going back, someone died. But the reason the story hasn't moved forward super far with Jules and Cam's story is because you are getting a lot of like mixed media in here as well, from newspaper clippings about Ruby's kidnapping as a child or her getting married and all that stuff. And then you also get letters that Ruby has written. So it seems like she's left behind a lot of letters at her desk before she died, and it is her telling her life story. So it kind of reminds me of The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo in that way, because she had a lot of husbands. She's telling her life story through these letters, and there's some kind of mystery that is for sure going to arise. Like, did she kill all of these men? Why did she leave these letters behind? What is she going to reveal in the letters? And then what's going to happen when Jules and Cam get to this house, what's gonna go down, I don't know. But all in all, I'm really enjoying it so far. I really like the writing. Like, it's so readable. It just hooked me so fast. I'm so into it. Even the more historical segments, which are like from newspapers from the 40s, 50s, 60s and whatnot, or from Ruby's letters, and she's an older woman, so her style of writing is a little bit different. I'm just like fully immersed in every aspect of the story. I'm excited to see where it's going to go, what mysteries we're going to solve. And I guess once I read more of it, I'll let you know a little bit more where I feel like it sits in the genre spectrum, so that other people can have a good idea of what kind of expectations to go into with this book. If it's fast, if it's slow, if it's twisty, surprising, or just kind of like a standard mystery. I feel like you're not getting the full effect of my coziness right now, but there's no angle that could describe the coziness. That is these pants and these Christmas socks that I'm wearing. I'm extremely cozy right now and still in all the wintry, Christmassy, holiday-y vibes, especially because right now is when this vlog changed for me. I always think it's funny to tell you like little random behind the scenes things about filming of vlogs, but originally, and maybe you already know this, maybe I had to film an intro to let you know, but at this point in my life, I went, oh shoot, tomorrow is Winterween. Really, one of my lovely subscribers left a comment to remind me that tomorrow is when Winterween begins, and I forgot. And I have participated in, I think, every rendition of Summerween, Winterween, Halloween, Camp Weekend Ween, all the things ever since they started. Like, I'm pretty sure I've never missed one. I'm not gonna start missing one now. I'm gonna just rearrange my entire month to make this work. So I originally had 2 reading vlogs planned in January. Both were gonna be reading arcs. I was gonna be reading mystery thriller arcs and reading horror arcs, just because I have a large influx of arcs to get to right now. This was gonna be the mystery thriller one, obviously. And now I'm like, I can move some things around and this can just become the Winterween vlog, and I can just have a little bit of a head start with reading this book because I still haven't finished it. I'm probably gonna finish it, if not like late tonight, which was basically tomorrow, then like actually tomorrow would be when I finished it. So this is just gonna be my first book of Winterween, and we're in the Winterween vlog now, hence the cozy jammies, because I had to get in the mood. But I did read more of the Heiress and I haven't finished it yet. I'm 194 pages in, so I do have one more opportunity to tell you about it before I get to the end of the book. And I'm still liking it, but I just do want to express it's very slow paced. Like, it's super slow. Not really anything has happened to this point. It's all just been piecing together Ruby's life story for the most part, and Cam and Jules being at the house and things happening there. It seems like it feels really minimal because not much is advancing in the story when they're there. You're learning that maybe there's some secret motives, so that's adding a little bit of tension in the story, which I do like, but I almost wish there was more of that and more sooner and more happening with that. Again, like, I'm still liking it, and I think that's just because I went into it with no expectations, but it's very slow. But I do like reading Ruby's story. I do like the writing style of the whole book in general. Like, I really like the writing style of Jules and Cam's perspective as well once we get into those portions of the book. Like, I like it. I'm having a good time with it, but it's not action-packed. So don't go in expecting a lot of action if you do read this one. The end is gonna be really telling to see what it was all building to, if it was worth it, if there's some kind of grand reveal that's really interesting, or if there's some drama that unfolds near the end. But I'm kind of surprised. I'm 200 pages in and not a lot has gone on. So that's about all I have to say, because there's really not much more to say on it. I am gonna finish it. I will connect with you. That sounded so corporate. I will chat with you again tomorrow morning. I assume that I will have finished this book by then, so hopefully I can tell you my final thoughts on it. Good morning. It is now officially the first day of Winterween, and now I've officially completed my first book because I cheated, got ahead, forgot it was going to be Winterween, and had to quickly rush to reorganize all my plans, and then didn't want to lose vlog footage of this, and so combined it into Winterween. That one's the most accurate. I'm also mentally at the point of little to no return because it's the Friday of the first week back at work after a long holiday vacation, and all I keep hearing in my head on loop is that stupid sound from TikTok of I think I like this little life, and everybody just making fun of it like I think I like this little life, and that's what my brain is right now. So we're not in a good place. We're really just trying to get to the weekend. But at least I finished a book and I can tell you about it. Also, prompts for the readathon. There's like a little itty bitty tiny little little bit of purplish color. Sorry, I have a lamp right here, so it's like reflecting weird. I'm counting that as purple on the cover, and we're counting this for purple on the cover prompt. But the Heiress, I finished this last night. I guess the first thing to pull back on is what you can expect with this book and the genre, since I didn't really know and I was like trying to figure that out as I went along. I would say that this is between like mystery, thriller, suspense, those kind of terms. This is a mystery, but the thing about it is that no one's really actively trying to solve a mystery in the book. It's not a very active plot-based mystery. It is more that there just is a natural mystery of the family history, and you as the reader are piecing together the family history as you are reading, especially these notes from Ruby herself. That's giving you kind of more information about some secrets that may be held within the family. I was fine with it because I went in with no expectations of getting a fast-paced thriller or anything, or like a really active mystery. I went in prepared for this to be like a historical fiction, if that's all it was going to be. So it was a fine experience for me, but if you're looking for a very active mystery, a very twisty thriller, just know that this is not that. All in all, I did still enjoy the book. I had a good time with it. I liked the writing of it. I was just enjoying it. Like, it's kind of fun to just follow a rich family around and learn family secrets. Like, I really like diving into family secrets and family histories. But all in all, I'm just giving it a 3-star. I thought it was fine. There are some reveals that come towards the end, but there's like a lot squished at the end really fast. And they weren't all things I saw coming. Like, I don't really think I saw any of them coming, so they were surprising, but they weren't the shocking, mind-blowing, plot twisty type of moments. It was just like, oh, okay, that's what happened there. Interesting. I see how we got there. And that was kind of it. So if that sounds like something you would like, I'd recommend it. If you've liked Rachel Hawkins in the past, I'd recommend it. But if you're looking for a really twisty, fast-paced mystery or thriller, just know that this is not going to be that for you. As for what I'm reading next, I think I'm gonna go to one of my digital arcs. I have both Island Witch by Amanda Jayatissa and Among the Living by Tim Levin. I think what I'm gonna do is start both of them, see which one is grabbing me more, and then jump into either one of those. So I'm gonna do that at the end of the day, once I get through the work day, and then I'll let you know where I'm going from there. I have not been doing the best job of keeping things updated, and I've done a lot of reading since we last talked. I did try both books. I tried Island Witch first by Amanda Jayatissa, and I really wanted that one to work well because one of the prompts is to read a book with a witch on the cover or witch in the title or something. Like, there's also a W in the title and it's kind of like a witchy theme this time around. So it would have been the perfect book. However, I was not immediately captured by it. And in a readathon, I only want to read stuff that I'm really, really interested in. So that one just wasn't doing it for me right now. It kind of opens and just generally feels more like a young adult story. And then when I went and looked back at the synopsis, it doesn't say anywhere that it is a young adult. It just markets itself as adult, but it does talk about the shift between girlhood and adulthood. And I'm like, maybe you should have just been a young adult book then, because it's like following this girl and her parents are really involved in her life. And that just gives me a much more young adult vibe than an adult vibe. I still think the story in general sounds interesting, and I'm sure I'll still try to read more of it at some point, but not for the purposes of this vlog. So then I picked up Among the Living by Tim Levin, and I started reading that one, and I was immediately more intrigued, and I am now 57% of the way through the book. I almost never read ebooks. I read physically so much more often than any other medium, so when I read an ebook, I do find myself flying through them pretty quickly. Something about like seeing the percentage markers and seeing like time left in chapter, it just keeps me moving through books really fast. So I'm really flying through it, and I do think it's good. I don't know if I think it's great. I guess it's gonna kind of depend on where the story goes from here, because the whole thing has been kind of unexpected for me so far. I just never really have known where it's going to go. The premise of this story is you're following two different groups of people who are connected by two of the members in the group. So there's Bethan, B-E-T-H-A-N, that's how I'm saying it, Bethan, and Dean. And they are former friends whose lives have gone in separate directions. They've been estranged for several years. Dean is part of this group of people who are exploiting the earth in order to get money. Like, they basically find these places to go excavate and to mine small samples of minerals to find good places for these big companies to then come in and then, you know, destroy the earth and try to take all these resources from the earth. That is a part of the team that he is on now. Bethan, on the other hand, is an environmental activist who is trying to prevent these things and does all of this work for climate activism. They end up encountering each other out in the Arctic on one of the missions that Dean was on, that Bethan and her crew then come out to sea. And while they're out there, it starts with Dean and his team of people going into this cave. They go down there and the permafrost has frozen some things, and now that climate change is happening and the permafrost is melting, it is unleashing some dangerous things, and then they have to deal with the consequences of that. These two groups are together. Sorry, my dog is fully in my lap and he keeps kicking my tripod. So anyways, you've got these two groups of people, there's some tension between them, and they're trying to face this thing that is coming after them. And the synopsis doesn't disclose what it is, so I don't want to spoil that. And it's really going to be hard to talk about without spoiling it in any way, because I kind of want to compare it to a TV show that I've really enjoyed, but that will make it really obvious what the concept of this book is. In general, it's a survival story, and it's kind of like a climate horror story, like how horrifying it is, the way we treat the earth and all the bad things that can happen because of that. And also just like real things that could actually end up happening that would ruin our lives. So I like it. I don't love it. I would like to feel more attached to the characters. I would like to know more about them. Everything's good, not great. Like, you get a good level of information about some of the characters that gets you invested in them, that make them interesting, that gets you wanting them to not die and to survive this situation, but it's not super top tier. So all in all, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I'm gonna finish the book. I'll probably just go ahead and finish it all in 1 or 2 extra sittings and then just tell you how I feel about it by the end. And then I want to read something super different after this. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I want something that feels a little bit more conventional, because this feels a little bit outside of my comfort zone, which is good and I'm enjoying it, but I want something that feels a little bit more familiar for my next read, because I'm just kind of craving that. And I have a lot of books on my shelves right now, so I'm sure I'll be able to find something. But first, I'm gonna finish this book. I'll let you know my final thoughts on it the next time that we chat. Hello, friends. I think it's the next day. I'm losing track of the days, but I did finish Among the Living. That is why I'm realizing that I am losing track of the days, because I started another book last night, and so it felt like it'd been a while since we spoke, but I just did a lot of reading yesterday. So final thoughts on Among the Living. I did think it was fine, but I thought it was just fine the whole time. It's just a book that I liked. It's not a book I loved. It's something I thought was okay. It had a lot of good bones, but it didn't wow me. Like, there's a lot of things that I wish the dials would have just been turned up more on certain pieces of the story. But in general, I thought it was okay, and it was a good introduction, I think, for me to the author. I am giving it a 3-star. A 3-star is not a bad rating. And it was my first full-length novel from this author, and it does feel just a little bit different from the typical types of horror thriller books that I typically read. Something about it just feels a little outside of my comfort zone, maybe because it was more of kind of like an adventure survivor story, or it felt a little more cinematic versus reading a lot of like domestic thrillers back to back to back. Not that I've been doing that, but I don't know. It just felt a little bit different, which is always nice. And I thought it had good atmosphere. I thought it had, like I said, good bones. Like, there were things about the characters that were interesting. I just wish we could have gone deeper with some of the characters. The concept in itself was just interesting. I am a little biased because I do really like climate fiction. It's always just been a little niche that I really enjoy. And I think if you enjoy climate fiction, environmental fiction, especially integrated into horror stories and like the disaster that could happen, I think you're gonna be more likely to enjoy this one. But all in all, like I said, it just felt fine to me the whole time. I don't know. Apparently this author has like 1 million books and novellas. I was looking at the end of the book and it mentioned like hundreds of novellas and like 40+ novels. So I'm sure I have plenty more that I can explore with this author and find something that works a little bit better for me. I also feel like, just in general, I probably would have enjoyed this more as a TV show or a movie based off of the type of book it is. Like, you just have to really be in the scenes for it to be effective for you. And I don't know that I always was like really fully in there. So all in all, it was okay. It was fine. It was a 3-star, but it does feel like bad news, because so far this year I've only read 2 books, the 2 books you've seen me read in this video, The Heiress and Among the Living, and they've both been 3 stars. And I don't like that energy. I don't want to be entering 2024 with that energy. I want to love a book. I want to set the tone for the year. I want to really be immersed and to really enjoy something. And the next book I've started is giving 3-star energy, and I'm getting scared. I'm only 14% of the way into it, but I don't know, 14% is like a pretty sizable chunk for me to already be feeling kind of hesitant about it. The book that I picked up is The Night of the Storm by Nishita Parekh. This is a locked room thriller that sounded really intriguing, but it's just coming off to a very slow start, and I don't really like the writing style of it either. The setup of the story so far is you're following this woman who has recently gone through a divorce, and they shared a son together. He's like 12, 13-ish. I don't think it says exactly how old he is, but it says he's on the brink of teenagehood. So he's about that age. And she is getting ready to go into a custody battle over the son. She has been the primary custodian of the child for like the past year, but now all of a sudden her ex-husband wants to fight for custody, and so she's worried about that. And that is just like all that's on her mind, which I'm sure if you are in that situation, that probably is all that's on your mind. But reading a locked room thriller, I would like to hear about something else. The setup of the thriller portion of it is that it's set during Hurricane Harvey in Texas, and so the rain is starting to come down. It's starting to be a bad storm. She's getting kicked out, or they're told to evacuate out of her apartment complex, and so she decides to take her son and go stay with her sister at her sister's fancy house. But there's tension and weird vibes because something has gone on with her sister's husband hitting on her, or potentially they might have even crossed the line before. I don't really know yet, but there's definitely weird energy there, and she's like nervous to be around him, but she doesn't really have another option. She has to take care of her son and prove that she can be a good caretaker. So she's like, yeah, I'm not gonna like let us wash away in this hurricane. We're gonna go stay at this house. And then there's also another couple who's staying at the house, which is the woman who lives there. It's her brother-in-law and sister, or sister-in-law and brother, or it's her husband's brother and sister-in-law. It's another couple that's related to them in some way by marriage somewhere in the family. And then there's also a baby, because one of them has a baby that's like a year old, but I don't remember whose baby it is. I just started this last night, and there's a lot of characters. Like I'm getting into it, I'm figuring it out, but all it feels like so far is like just boring. It just feels boring so far. I want the vibes, like I want the atmosphere. And so far she's just been like driving around trying to get there, just thinking about what's going on with her son, and then thinking about how much she doesn't want to be around her sister's husband. And I kind of want to sit it down because I want to be immersed in a story, especially in a readathon, and in general having 2-3 stars back to back. I want something that I feel like right off the bat I'm going to love. But I'm also like, I have an arc of this book, so I do want to read it anyways. So do I just keep going right now? I don't know. But I am planning to be on some reading sprints tonight on my friend Jessie's channel. I'm going to be co-hosting her book club with her this month, along with Lexi from Books with Lexi. And so Jessie does this thing where she always gets her co-hosts together to do reading sprints in the same month that they're going to be the co-hosts of the book club. So I'm going to be on her channel tonight doing reading sprints. And the book that we're reading for the book club is Good Girls Don't Lie, I think is the title of it, whatever Christina Henry's new book is. But it's so early in the month, being January 8th, that I don't think I'm gonna pick that one up in the sprints tonight, because I want to have it be really fresh for our discussion at the end of the month. So anyways, all that to say, I think my plan, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to give this book, The Night of the Storm, a little bit more of a chance. I'm going to pick it up again in those reading sprints, or if I read sometime before I get into that, I'll pick it up and try a little bit more of it. And if I'm just not feeling it, you know, if the spark's not alive between me and this book, then I will put it down and I will pick up something else. As for what I pick up, if it is not that book, I have no idea. It's gonna just be whatever's calling to me in the moment. So that is the plan. That's what I'm gonna do. I just wanna love a book. I just wanna have fun. I just wanna have a good time. I just want to feel something, you know? So that's the plan. I will see you after the reading sprints and let you know how it went. Okay, hi, good morning. It is the next day, and it is absolutely pouring rain. It is windy, pouring rain, thunderstorming. You probably can hear that in the background. I think it's lovely ambience. I love rainy days like this. Hopefully the background noise soothes you as well. Here's what happened last night on sprints. I did try The Night of the Storm, apt for the storm I'm having right now, and would have been nice if I would have enjoyed that book so that I could read it with the storm. But I did not enjoy that book. I did DNF it at 22%. It just got to the point pretty early on where I couldn't see any way it would be higher than a 2-star for me. And that's just not the energy that I want to carry with me this week. So I set the book down. I'm pretty sure I told you about all of this before, but main things, I didn't like the writing style. All the woman was thinking about was the custody of her son, which I know is realistic, but is just not something that I cared to read about. And I just generally wasn't clicking with it at all. So that was disappointing because I love a locked room mystery and I thought it would be moody and atmospheric and fun, but it was not that for me. Stay tuned for my January wrap up where I'll let you know if I did end up completing the book at any other later point or if I leave it DNF'd. I think I'm probably gonna leave it DNF'd, but we'll see. That could possibly change, probably not, but there's always a chance. So what I did is I picked up a different arc that I have, What Is Mine, which is coming out early February, I believe February 6th or 9th. This is also a thriller. I have never read from this author before. I had no expectations of what I was getting myself into, but I'm enjoying this so much more. And it's one of those thrillers that's kind of nothing special, but it just is entertaining me in the moment. I feel like I watch a lot of TV shows like that where I'm like, nothing about this TV show has a crazy premise, like it's just someone's kid went missing, or someone's sister is missing, or their mom is missing, or their husband's missing, and they're just figuring out what happened to them. Nothing too crazy, just a typical kind of domestic thriller setup. But there's something about just like relaxing with a book like that every now and then when I can click with the writing of it that I really like. And that is what this book is doing for me. It's a pretty basic setup. You're following a woman who has recently taken in her nephew. Her sister has recently died, and she had an estranged relationship with her sister. Her sister had addiction problems and other problems, and pretty much went off the radar, had this kid, was living her life for the past decade-ish or so, and then her sister ended up dying, and so now she has taken in her 8 or 9-year-old nephew along with her husband, and they're just living in this little lake community. And then the book begins with the boy Luca going missing, which is kind of ironic because The Night of the Storm started with a woman thinking so much about the custody of her son and like what would happen if she lost her son, and this book starts with this woman's adopted son, her nephew, going missing, and all she's thinking about is him being missing, and it's like taking up her whole life because of course it would. But the way it's written is so much more engaging. Like everything about this book is just pulling me in so much more. But it is funny, like I can't ignore the contrast, and that I didn't love that in the other book, but I do in this one. But I'm just really clicking with the writing style. I'm really getting into it, and the book has pretty much so far just been about her trying to figure out what happened to him. Did someone take him? Did he choose to run away? Is it potentially someone from her sister's past who's gotten involved? And then clues start to come into the story. I read a lot of this last night. I got to over the 50% mark because I saw that there was a part 2 coming, and I had a feeling that part 2 was going to like reveal something, and it did. And I'm excited by it. I'm very into this book. I don't know where it's going to go. I really wanted to keep reading it last night, but it was getting really late and I was feeling absurd for just like flying through this book without talking to you about it at all. So I made myself sit it down. I think I got to 52 or 55%, but I'm really into it. I'm excited to jump back into it later today and see where the story goes. So that's the plan, and I'm glad that I'm having a good time. Today is the last day of Winterween, and last night I finished my last book that I'm going to be reading for the readathon. So we are here to wrap up the readathon, tell you about everything I read, most specifically this last book I read, and then kind of recap how the week went. So last night I finished What Is Mine, and I am giving this a 3.5 star. So I still don't have a great read of the year yet, but at least it's a little bit above a 3. At least it went a little bit better. And in general, I did enjoy this book. However, like many of the other books I read in this video, I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine, but it had good writing. So that's why it gets a bump up with that 0.5 to me. I was really engaged in the story. I think it reads kind of more like a drama, like a family drama, than what I think of when I say the word thriller. I keep really diversifying how I specify genres as I read more of what I would always just call thrillers. I'm trying to be more specific now between mainly thriller and mystery because those are very different, but also bucketing into things that feel more like suspense or things that feel more like a drama or a family drama, or even just getting more specific on like a psychological thriller or an action-packed thriller, just to try to differentiate things a little bit better to make sure I'm comparing things correctly and that you can have the correct expectations. So for this one, while I would put it under the broad umbrella of thriller, it is more of a domestic drama-based thriller, which makes sense because it's about a woman whose son gets taken from her. Maybe the main thing that feels a little bit not off, but just, I don't know, not perfect for my personal taste is the pacing of the story, the layout of it, how much time we spend on certain things. And that's just all a matter of personal preference. It kind of reminded me of the only Lucinda Berry book I've ever read. The only one I've read is The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry, and this book reminded me of that one as far as pacing and style. So if you liked that book, then maybe this would be a good one for you. Follows similar kind of ideas about family challenges and whatnot. And this book did have some twists and reveals that came along the way, some surprising things. All in all, it was a good time. I had a good time with it. There's one thing about the end that typically I don't love that comes into play regarding mental health. It didn't really bother me too much in this story, but if you're super sensitive to the way mental health can be used in thrillers sometimes and the more gray area parts of that, then that's something to note as well. But in general, I had a good time with the story. I thought the writing was great. It gave me almost a cinematic quality to it. I felt really engaged in the action of what was going on. I felt like these characters felt really real to me, and I would definitely pick up something from this author again. So that's about as good of a win as I'm gonna get in this video, apparently, because I'm having a little bit of a rough start to the reading year, but that's okay. We're at least on an upward trajectory. Hopefully this will kickstart some better reads for me, but at least I didn't really hate anything. I'm glad that I DNF'd the things that I wasn't immediately getting interested in, which is where I guess we can recap. What did I DNF? I DNF'd The Night of the Storm at around 22% and Island Witch very early on after the first chapter. And then as for the other books I actually read, we had The Heiress, which was a 3-star, and Among the Living, which was a 3-star. So all some early new upcoming releases to get some thoughts on. That was my perspective. Seek out others if you would like to hear more. But that is a wrap for Winterween, and that is a wrap for this video. Let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of these books or if you plan on picking up any of these books and what you think about them. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!